going to talk about the big talking point in Counter-Strike right now. No, not cheaters being in every game, that reality. Instead, we're going to be talking about the rise and fall of snaptap. It's the ridiculously named snaptap, I would say. Great bit of marketing from Razer. But let's just, first of all, before we get into the specifics, let's just give you a little basic breakdown of what snaptap was. Basically, there was certain types of keyboard that would enable you to essentially have faster input priority. So when you wanted to like counter strafe with your movement, it would absolutely do that for you, and it would make doing that easier and more reliable, essentially. So you could replicate counter strafing by pressing fewer keys. You wouldn't have to quite nail it like you would ordinarily in the game. And this feature had been sold. It wasn't just Razer that were doing it. I think Wooting keyboards had like offered similar stuff. And it was basically considered the next big, push forward in hardware to enable people to be able to counter strafe easier in the game. And look, I'll just show you how Razer themselves marketed it. You can see here, this is the snaptap mode. And advanced input priority for faster execution. Prioritize the latest input between two selected keys without having to release the previous one. Enjoy more responsive inputs for near instant directional changes in FPS games. And it gives a brief explainer on what it's like when it's off. And you can see that when you press A and you're moving to the left, and you press D and moving to the right, there's a sweet spot when you've got A and D pressed, which is when you stand still, and this is where in Counter-Strike you would shoot, because obviously you're more inaccurate, your bullets are more inaccurate while you're moving, and so you want to, as you're moving, come to a standstill as quickly as you can, so your aim resets itself and you get bullet accuracy. So with snaptap mode on, what this was doing is, as you can see from the helpful diagrams that they've drawn that remind me bizarrely of Portal, you can see that with that you literally just have to press the one button. The signal will be withheld if you hold down A. It doesn't matter about the timing of you releasing the button. And look, this is how they word it. With snaptap mode, in any instance where two opposing directions are detected, it will register the last input as the priority, which means your character will no longer stop moving in the heat of battle when two opposing directional keys are pressed. Instead, you can now change directions instantly without having to release the previous key. We recommend using snaptap together with rapid trigger mode for even greater responsiveness. And you can see here, and obviously Razer are an endemic hardware company. I've known Razer a long time. I'm friends with a lot of the Razer execs. I'm probably going to say some uncharitable things in just a moment, but just again for full disclosure, there was even a period a long time ago, back when I used to work in Heaven Media, when they used to, send me out like care packages and stuff for my birthday. I would just wake up and there'd be a box outside on my doorstep, and it would just have like the entire fucking Razer range within it, with a little note inside. It was like just happened to know people. Obviously, as I progressed down my journalism career, I was kind of a bit more leery about accepting gifts. But anyway, I do know a lot of the Razer guys. They're endemic. They follow esports, and obviously they'll have designed this feature with esports in mind. And you can see they've even used, the aim map that's popular to Counter-Strike, and you can see they do specifically reference Valorant and Counter-Strike too. And you can see the difference with the snaptap mode off. It shows the keys here, and you can see it with it on, and how the inputs are registering. And of course, also as part of the marketing, you can see these endorsements from pro players, and you can see, look, quotes, snaptap brings a whole new level of fluidity to my movement. Here's Zershian from Mouse, lovely smile there. It's amazing just how clean and sharp movement is now. See here, counter strafing with snaptap feels so crispy and responsive. Using SnapTap has completely transformed my in-game movement. So, they've got their endorsements on there from, the people that have obviously, sponsored. They sponsor certain players and certain teams. All of which is to say, this was a pretty big, marketing push. And it did have a strong uptake in the pro community. There were lots of people that suddenly decided we're going to give SnapTap a go. Well, I would go so far as to say it was probably a bad idea because you did the thing Valve hate, and that is you didn't consult with them, you went off half-cocked, you ran away with an idea, and they have some very pure ideas about Counter-Strike. That's one thing you can say about Valve. The people that work on Counter-Strike, they have some very pure ideas. Remember, they never wanted coaches as we were using them. When coaches used to stand behind players as a sixth man, and they would quarterback the game, and 5 players would just run around, and we were all super excited about it, weren't we, in esports? We were all saying, wow, imagine this. Imagine having a legendary IGL as a coach behind 5 incredible aim stars, and they're micromanaging it. This will take the game to the highest level it's ever been played at. And Valve went, no, we don't like that. We don't like that at all. In fact, we think that's playing it as a 6v6, and we believe it's a 5v5. And they started introducing rules about the what a coach can and can't do, when they could communicate, and eventually we ended up with the cheating scandal where all the coaches online, 37 of them or whatever it was, had been essentially using a bug during the pandemic online era to gain an advantage. And so they put their foot down super hard. And now we have ridiculous rules where I don't know what it is, but it's you can't even make eye contact with your players, or if your fucking hands aren't in your pockets and you smoked a cigarette 30 minutes ago, you get disqualified or something ridiculous. It's they've gone way beyond kind of what their original response was going to be, because people fucked it up. People took it too far, and that's one thing Valve will always overcorrect if you push it out too far. And so let me tell you what I mean by this. We've allowed jump binds in the game for perfect smoke executes. We've just had that there and in pro players configs, and nobody has said anything, and auto aliases and all of this stuff, and Valve have been okay. That's as far as that can go. Now, I never liked jump binds. I never liked jump throw binds. I always thought they shouldn't be allowed. Maybe I'm a purist in this sense, but I think when you start getting into the realms of auto-aliasing and putting in all different commands so you can have perfect execution, and your excuse is, well, listen, I'm a pro. I can do it perfectly every time. This is just a quality of life improvement. It just makes it easier for me to do. Well, in that moment, yes, it does. It does make it easier for you to do. And why does it need to be easier? Because it has a huge, profound impact on the game. A missed smoke is very important to a round execute. It can be the difference between winning a round and losing a round. So if it's important that you do it perfectly every time, then the person doing it perfectly every time should be you, and not some sort of bind or fucking alias or whatever it is to enable you to do it. But unfortunately, pros very often get to dictate what is and isn't acceptable. And so voices like mine, like a lot of commentators and journalists and low-level players, community members, we were all ignored in favor of the pros. And the pros just want to be able to do the shit as easy as possible, not have to learn stuff, not have to, how it is with pros. They just want to get from point A to point B as easy and quickly as possible on the basis, I'm a fucking pro, I practice 12 hours a day, I can do all this shit. But anyway, I never subscribed to that. And as we'll get to, because we've pushed this snaptap bullshit, we've now had the overcorrection. Because obviously it's now affecting jump binds, and everyone's had a fucking tantrum about it. But just right out the gate, jump binds for me were the start of a slippery slope. once you start getting into the realms of, oh, well, I can use this command, I can use this piece of hardware. You know, I remember we had this as well with certain headsets. There were certain headsets at that the selling point was it had better spatial sound, and some of them, they could sort of like pick up audio cues that other headsets wouldn't. And then people were going, well, you've got to have that headset. And then you go, oh, but that's just a hardware thing and that's a tech thing. And again, it's fine if everybody is using this stuff, but if it's not a tournament standard and we're letting people bring their own equipment and shit like this, like we used to do back in the day, that was a problem. You know, I talked about how, again, this is going way, way back. There used to be a situation, if you can believe it, where people would come to BYOC tournaments, because that's how we used to do our tournaments, and people were being told you had to play on CRTs, but certain teams were demanding that they got to play on 144 hertz monitors, and therefore had these ridiculous advantages compared to everyone else in the tournament. I mean, there were top high-level teams that were threatening to pull out of tournaments if they didn't get to use their superior equipment. And so I complained about that at the time, because I believe everything should just be baseline, flat. Everyone has the same shit. Everyone plays on as level a playing field as possible. And also, we enable you to make mistakes in the same way any human being can do. And by the way, I don't think it's a given that hitting a jump smoke is guaranteed every time. If it wasn't, why would you need the bind? Or rather, if it was, why would you need the bind, right? It's sometimes you are going to fuck that up. And if there are consequences for that fuck up, I don't think there should be shortcuts or crutches for that. Skill issue, get good. There are people that practice, you know, doing these repetitive things, like think about Munacy and all the little bugs and tricks and exploits and everything he's able to do, which makes him such a fantastic player with an incredible sponge-like brain. I mean, you know, a sponge, not just Chad, but, you know, a sponge-like brain for the game. And he sits there and learns all of this stuff. You know, I remember there was a brief period of time where I was living with the NRG players. I lived with Gob B, one of the great IGLs and then later coaches in Counter-Strike. And do you know what he used to do in his downtime? He would get his hookah out, he would be smoking shisha, and he would fucking sit there in no-clip mode, and he would just try hundreds of different lineups, different flashes, angles, smoke. This is what he did in his spare time. And he would, if he found anything good, he would then learn how to replicate it by doing it over and over and over and over again. And, you know, if there was a bind that makes it easier, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have gone in for that shit. You've got to be able to replicate stuff in competition. And so that's how I've always felt about it. I've never liked jump binds. Never, never, never. Anyway, I certainly didn't like snaptap when it was introduced. And I saw a lot of very, dubious arguments about the old snappeth of tappeth, which I'll bring this up for. Because, listen, counter-strafing is a skill. And counter-strafing isn't perfect every time. You're human. Even when you're a pro, you're human. And I have seen pro players pre-snappeth tappeth not land a counter-strafe. I mean, again, I don't want to single mechanically bad players out, but there are certain IGLs that they don't counter-strafe well. They fuck up their shots. Their first bullet accuracy isn't accurate because they didn't hit a counter-strafe correctly. And that has an impact on the game. It has an impact on the results. Not hitting that first bullet accuracy can be the difference between getting a kill or not. So why would we agree collectively that it's no big deal to use hardware to make sure you do that every single time? Kind of seems like it's an important skill, right? But Razer obviously thought, well, this is a fucking winning idea. We figured out a way to do it. It's great tech, by the way, and Razer do make good equipment. But I can't help but feel, if you knew anything about Valve, you knew exactly where this was going to end up. I said immediately, that'll get banned, you know. And everyone was like, there's no fucking way. How are you going to ban a keyboard? I said, they'll ban it. They will ban it, guys. Listen, it's not even necessarily because it's so overpowered. Because if you've watched a VU video or, you know, any of that stuff, when you look at the numbers, some players with snaptap have improved. Some players with snaptap have got worse. There's no exact science to it. And overall, it doesn't look to have, like, raised the ceiling of pros in such a ridiculous, broken fashion. But even if that is the case, the problem you've got is what it opens the door to down the road. And that is that, well, what next from a piece of hardware? What about a mouse that perfectly controls recoil? So you don't have to do it. You don't have to pull down. You don't have to learn a recoil pattern. It can instantly detect what gun you're using and counter the recoil perfectly for you. Why not use that? You know, it's tech. I'm still holding the mouse. I've still got to aim the crosshair in the right direction. You know, what's the harm? Well, the harm is recoil control is a fucking skill, right? Recoil. And by the way, there used to be anti-recoil scripts back in the day. They weren't very good. But in Counter-Strike, everybody used to be like, oh, fucking hell, give me that anti-recoil control script. And you would use these things, and, you know, they were not very effective, but they were banned. If you got detected having one in your config that you uploaded to fucking Equitas or EDAC or X-Ray or, you know, any of these anti-cheats that required you to upload a config on request, you'd get fucking banned. And put it this way, as the tech advanced, there are mice that fucking do, or mouses, I never know if you pluralize it in the same way as the animal, but there are mouses that do have things like that where you can put in very basic commands and, you know, have recoil control and put scripts in and stuff like this. And we wouldn't allow it. We go, oh no, that's wrong. Well, listen, the same logic applies, unfortunately. And so I was watching it. I was like, gonna be a lot of fucking refunds for these Razer keyboards. Now, before we get into the community reaction and all the silliness and everything else that's kind of gone on around this particular topic, I will just say, I will remind you that sometimes Razer do get a little bit ahead of themselves. I don't know if you remember this, but during the pandemic, Razer made a mask, and I remember I showed this on the on stream at the time. And this is very tangentially linked, but I'm using it to illustrate a point. Look at this. Is this the world's smartest face mask? Wow, 2021. Do you remember? Do you remember back in the pandemic? Right? Look at this. And I even said, listen, if we've got to walk around wearing masks like dickheads, I'd rather mine was some fucking super cool cyberpunk luminous one. Right? And there, look at that. You merely adopted esports. Check him out. Right? So anyway, I was like, yeah, I'll take one of them. Right? Like, fucking why not? You know what I mean? Like, if I've got to wear one, at least let me be the coolest looking dickhead in the room. Right? But anyway, it turned out they advertised it. They did all of this, like, fucking super slick advertising. They did all the gubbins on the website and everything. And you had to, like, sign up to, like, pre-order it and stuff. Because I think I remember doing it. And then it was, womp, womp, womp. Razer Incorporated to pay more than $1.1 million in fines for misrepresenting the performance and efficacy of supposed N95 grade Zephyr face masks. Case continues agency's effort to combat COVID-related health product scams. I mean, I got things I shouldn't say in my brain, but before we fall into the whole what was all that masking about, right? We'll leave it. We'll just leave it, mate. We'll leave it in the past, yeah? Didn't work, did it? Is what I'm saying. And we all got sick anyway. Whatever. It's fine. What I'm saying is, respect the science. That's what I say. What I'm saying is, I think this is an example of Razer basically getting ahead of themselves. And they're going, man, listen, everyone's got to wear masks. Let's make a fucking super cool Wicked. Imagine if we had an N95 mask and you look like Bane and you had things out the side and it was all lit up like a fucking Razer keyboard. Breathe tap, we'll call it. We'll call it breathe tap, yeah? Stops you getting COVID. And it doesn't recognize the input of the disease, right? And yeah, anyway, they obviously got ahead of themselves, and they ended up paying, a hefty price for it. And this, all joking aside, this is probably a bit of a disaster for Razer, because I mean, like, they've marketed this product, Snappeth of Tappeth, and obviously they've now, I imagine, a lot of people who bought it for that feature are going to look for refunds. I have no idea how many refunds, how many sales. You can obviously use it in other games. It's just not going to be something that you can use in CS, particularly in competitive CS. But it does seem to me to be a real potential disaster. Now, why? Why is it a disaster, Richard? Well, because what happened was Valve, I knew it was coming, right? I knew it was coming. Valve have decided, yeah, we're just not going to allow that. We're not going to allow that, and fuck your jump binds too. And a week ago, the signs were there. This is Gabe Follower, who obviously is the data miner, one of the data miners you can trust. He's not a clout goblin. He only posts what he finds down in the data mines. And you can see they added a way of detecting snaptap. And again, he showed another post like, yep, it's coming. They're definitely looking to detect it. Now, people were still being kind of optimistic. They were going, oh, it might just be to, like, work better with the game. Yeah, because subtick's bad, yeah. And I don't know what subtick is, but it's bad, yeah. So maybe that's what they're doing. And so the fucking, the copium was off the charts for a few days. And I was just sat there going, oh, this will be classic. And then they did it. Valve dropped it. They rolled it out, this insane change, and essentially took it away. And they even did it in a funny way, because it's Valve. Here it is. Sidestepping skill. Oof. Have that, snap cells. You're shit. You're shit at the game. Get fucked. Right? The snap cells in shambles. Counter-Strike is constantly evolving. From art to maps to inventive plays and even player input, the CS community shapes the game. Scripting and automating player commands has always been contentious, but over the years, some forms of scripting, e.g. jump throws, have gained acceptance as they enable plays that wouldn't otherwise be possible. In fact, jump throws became such an important part of the game that we've done the work to make them reliable without any special scripting or binds, i.e. by jumping and quickly throwing a grenade. Developing one's coordination and reaction time has always been key to mastering Counter-Strike. Yes, I couldn't say it better myself. Recently, some hardware features have blurred the line between manual input and automation. So we've decided to draw a clear line on what is or isn't acceptable in Counter-Strike. We are no longer going to allow automation via scripting or hardware that circumvent these core skills, and moving forward, and initially exclusively on Valve official servers, players suspected of automating multiple player actions from a single game input may be kicked from their match. To prevent accidental infractions, in-game binds that include more than one movement and or attack actions will no longer work, so null binds and jump throw binds are out. And if you have a keyboard that includes an input automation feature such as snaptap mode, be sure to disable the feature before you join a match in order to avoid any interruption to your matches. And the screeching, the delicious screeching was music to my ears, because look, I don't give a fuck that you had to hit up mummy and daddy to get an advance on your pocket money to buy a keyboard so you could delude yourself at 12k MMR you're one day gonna go pro. I don't give a fuck about y'all. And I also don't give a fuck if you're a pro getting paid fucking 30 grand a month to play a fucking video game and you can't be asked to fucking master counter-strafing. Fuck you too. Fuck you at both ends of this spectrum. So I was sat there, I was enjoying it. Now, obviously, I don't play the game and I'm shit when I do. So this couldn't affect me less. But it was enjoyable to watch. I'll just add, there were some people ahead of the curve on this. This is before SnapTap, right? Because obviously, we need to put our foot down about hardware now because of what might happen in the future. And I want to draw you to the world of Vax Sucks. You see, Vax Sucks, the community that thinks everyone is cheating, there's cheats in every game, they knew that hardware could go too far. And here is a post from a month ago of them complaining about how Neuralink might be used as an aimbot. Now listen, obviously, Neuralink going to be used to help people with like really debilitating illnesses and disabilities and locked-in syndrome, give them their life back, so they can use a computer with ease, scroll. It's going to enhance so many lives as a technology. But have you considered that they could just aim with their mind? I mean, think about that. How are you going to beat someone who can aim with their mind like fucking scanners? How are you going to... That's not fair. So I think, Mr. Elon, you should jettison this technology because obviously it's going to disrupt the game. And obviously now, thanks to Valve banning SnapTap, Neuralink will also be banned. You will not be allowed to use it on Valve servers, I assume. So get fucked. Get fucked, all you people with locked-in syndrome that were desperately hoping to play Counter-Strike with your brain. Not happening now. Vax Sucks say so. Yeah, neurocells in shambles. That's actually funny. Neuron cells. That's good. Well done. Right, anyway. I mean, just look at the top comment. I'm interested in seeing how true this is over time. Same. Right, anyway. So, sidestepping skill. That's where we were at. Now, this was kind of catastrophic in the eyes of lots of people. The jump binds were the bigger issue, right? But there were some people who didn't like SnapTap as well, although I did notice there were a lot of people who were like, right, okay, I've not been on the record about SnapTap, and even though I thought it was kind of rad and I bought the keyboard, I'm now going to real subtly pretend I was against SnapTap the whole time, right? And a lot of people did do that. But in general, I think the banning of SnapTap, it was viewed as a W, as the kids say. So let's start with my good friend Maui Snake, and we get his opinion. What did he have to say? He said, Valve has banned SnapTap, biggest W in recent history. And I'll just point out as well that when somebody complained about the jump throw binds, Maui was one of the correct voices that said you really don't need them in CS2, although we did leave out the word need, but that's fine. We all know what he means. So he said it was a W. Wooting keyboards, less of a W for them, obviously with their business, because they had something called Snappy Tappy and Rappy Snappy, apparently, which I don't know. I can't do it. But there, look. This little hype is over, and we are glad Valve has taken a stance against SnapTap. It's like that meme with the mask on, and they're crying, but the smile's on the front. Don't use Snappy Tappy or Rappy Snappy in CS2 anymore, as it will result in a kick. So they were not vibing it. This was a funny one. You'll understand the significance. This is one of my pals, Jimmy, who works at Razer. And you can see he just posted whelp. And a McDonald's application. Yep. Rough day in the office at Razer, I'm pretty sure. But it's good to see the guys taking it well. As I said, they are endemic, to esports. They are good people. And so, in general, the SnapTap thing, it was kind of interesting because there was also lists going around about all the pros who were using SnapTap. There was like some fucking ridiculous conspiracy theories about snaptap. I want to find the comprehensive list, actually. People have been tracking this as if it was super important. We had this at Blast, which was obviously the penultimate tournament prior to Cologne, and you can see these were the guys that were using it at the Blast Fall Finals 16 days ago. You can see 3 players on NIP, Norbert on Virtus Pro, Exile on Cloud9. I guess he's just desperately seeking for his form. You had Heroic, Complexity, couple of players there, Grim and Floppy, JL on Na'Vi, Rain and Frozen, Nico and Munisi on G2, Liquid, we're using it, JKS, Yakindar, Ultimate. I'm amazed that the JK Sexuals haven't fucking gone on a march. Like, if their Lord and Saviour uses it, how dare you? How dare you nerf him, Valve? So you can see, this was what people were saying in terms of how widespread the usage was. And then at Cologne, there's a few more. You can see all of SAW were using it, which the conspiracy theory, in case you missed it, on Reddit was, well, that's why SAW are good. That's why SAW got to the semi-finals of Cologne. It wasn't a Cinderella story. They were cheating. They're going to be terrible without it now. It's like, I also like that this guy has done some data reading, although people said that to ignore this post. We'll get to why in a moment. But you can see, look, right? All non-italicized players showed 0 early counter-strafes in all of the games played. Italicized players either only had some games with 0 early counter-strafes or had some games with very low early counter-strafes. Most players with less than 20 early counter-strafe games were only 1 tick early in each of their early counter-strafes. This guy's gone deep. My guess is that either server, PC, keyboard lag causes some overlapping inputs to be registered, leading to some small amount of early counter-strafes for players who were using snaptap or equivalents. All players listed, except for Snacks, had a perfect counter-strafe rate above 40% in games with less than 20 early counter-strafes. Right? So, super interesting. And then someone said, he's just making it up. And I'll explain why. Nico said he didn't use SnapTap in Cologne. And it's rare I see good replies on Twitter from the plebs. But shout out to this one from the guy from the Olympics. I did not need special equipment. I'm a natural shooter. That crazy Turkish guy who just rocked up and didn't even wear any fucking special glasses or anything. I'll take that. That is pretty funny. So then people didn't know what to believe. Like, who was using SnapTap? Who wasn't using SnapTap? All academic now, because obviously SnapTap is not going to be allowed at all. Now, the big issue definitely wasn't SnapTap. People were like, yeah, that's a little bit inconvenient. I don't like that. But the tantrum that the pros had over jump binds was deliciously pathetic. Let's start here. Let's start with Device. This is what he said. He said, Valve impossible challenge. Move 1 step forward without going 3 steps back. And the irony there is he's just described Astralis, hasn't he? So, joke's on you, I would say. And for the past 3 years, his career. So, but anyway, not to dwell on that. Device didn't like it. Device said, look, this is it's just like 3 steps back, man. It definitely isn't. It's actually a step forward. You just don't see it that way. Don't know why Kreese gets an opinion, but he does. Why would you remove the jump throw binds before the RMR qualifiers? Seems like troll. Lol. I don't think people quite realise we're hurtling towards such a crowded calendar. If Valve were not allowed to make any changes whatsoever before a major qualifying tournament, we would just be stuck with the way CS2 is for ages. Just be like that almost permanently, except maybe during Christmas and the summer break when all the players fuck off. Next up, Elige. Are you kidding? Removing jump binds, man? Lol. Removing SnapTap, sure, and that functionality, whatever, but removing a quality of life that you even had in the game when CS2 was in beta is so lame. You guys said it yourself. You added the functionality in the game intentionally. add a bind. Now, which isn't to say that Valve might not somewhere down the line add another command. I don't think they will. I don't think they're going to move. I don't think you need it in CS2. I'll demonstrate that point. But no, I disagree with the framing of it being a quality of life. It's not a quality of life. Quality of life improvement is obviously when something was bad and didn't quite function as well as it could, and then you improved it. You improved the quality of it, so it is now functioning better or in a way that has more polish to it. That is what I would associate with for a quality of life thing. Twists, NA Players Union, of course. Will be good to know about jump binds as it's integral to the game at this point. I would hope that it's a temporary test to detect and separate inputs for the future. And he added, also update 1 day before RMR closed qualifier. If I'm not mistaken, any nade that required you to forward throw against the wall is going to be inconsistent now without a bind. Yeah, well, not as inconsistent as you would think, as we'll get to. And then the great one came from Telegram. I don't know what's going on with Simple Man, but here he is. Valve banned jump. It's like the fucking where were you when was kill. It's like that. Valve banned jump throw. They decided to destroy the first stage component of this game. Fools decided to bully us. You got bullied. Kind of sad to see him, like, to see the greatest of all time, like, not being able to handle jump binds being taken out of the game. But, you know, why you bully him? Hopefully he's joking, or he was drinking, and joking. It's fine. Listen, mate, I'm right there with you, sharing my thoughts on social media. Bubsky wouldn't be CS without a tepid Bubsky opinion. No more scripts and binds. A good stance from Valve, drawing the line for how much assistant players can use. But then he goes on to say, bit sad to see jump throw plus W not allowed anymore. You can still hit it manually, just not 100% consistently. Mirage, as an example, will take a hit on the T side, as probably some players will fail instant window smoke now. Not all the time, but I would assume like a 10% fail rate. People in his replies are saying, you can definitely hit this 100% consistently. And they're right. Back to Maui, off the top rope on the matter of the jump binds. I'm glad that jump throws are gone. Seriously, this will never be settled via Twitter, but with jump throws reliably built into the game, I've messed up less than 5% of my jump throws of all variations, including W plus spacebar simultaneously. Valve has made this stuff pretty idiot proof. And yes, I would argue that if you're a pro, you can definitely hit these reliably, consistently. See if I can find you Twist's video. This is the conclusion he arrived at, right? After initially complaining, because Twist's, unlike people, other players, you know, he like, oh, okay, I'll go and try it for myself and formulate an informed opinion. And here it is. Goodbye, jump binds. But he did then also add there are going to be some ones which are going to be more difficult to hit consistently without a bind, which I don't mind. I embrace the idea of having errors in my pro games. It's not a big deal. This is obviously, you know, the classic Insta jump smoke, and you can see he did a series of them, which, you know, they're all there. This is the slightly more difficult one. And a little bit of inconsistency there. But not a big deal. I would argue that there should be an unreliability in things like smokes and flashes. That these little inconsistencies and flaws within the competitive space are actually a good thing for the game, not a bad thing for the game. But anyway, Semphis also echoed kind of my sentiments. He said they did it to remove the jump throw binds. Can't wait to see how this plays out. Let's see who has the talent to hit the hard smokes. Not a popular opinion among modern pros. Automatic, I couldn't tell if he was joking or not, but all things considered, this might be serious. Yeah, less smokes equals more gunfights. I agree. Fuck your sad lineups at the start of a game when we can all be running around, wide peeking, dry, no utility, and taking angels. MBK went a bit crazy. I don't know. He said, remove snaptap all you want. Jump throw binds were created to avoid smashing N plus space and just use one key instead. So we're just going to go back to Neanderthal. Seems like a useless step back when it is settled in for so long. Maybe it's impossible for new VAC to see the difference. Now, I know Nathan a long time. What this has to do with VAC, fuck all, right? We'll get to that in a second, but I think saying that, obviously, this is to do with some sort of flaw in the VAC system. No, it isn't. It's a very clear stance that Valve would always have lent towards. They turned a blind eye to the jump throw binds, and now you've got a hardware company a thank for them not being in the game anymore. The reaction from Reddit has been kind of interesting as well. I always like to read Reddit threads to get a temperature check on what the average moron thinks. There's no better method for that, actually. And you can see people seem to be very pleased with it. They're saying it's a W. Snaptap abusers in shambles. Like, if you look throughout the thread, generally people are actually quite positive about the removal of snaptap and not so bothered about the jump throw binds. As you saw from the Twists video, you know, you can pretty much hit them most of the time. You know, there'll be little inconsistencies, but such is life. But anyway, the big thing that whet everyone's appetite was in this very limited kind of notes that they put out. You can see certain types of movement shooting input automation, such as hardware-assisted counter-strafing, will now be detected on Valve official servers. Actually, I think I should probably show you an example of that, right? Because the funny thing is, loads of people were getting fucking banned for having sick movement. This is Vu. He posted this video. See, you've hit a counter-strafe. So, obviously, there's going to be some teething problems, and there were a lot of people complaining about this on the front page on the day that this happened. Everyone was like, oh my god, I'm getting kicked. My old keyboard got me kicked. I mean, let me just show you. This is kind of where we're at. So there you go. Look, the old keyboard got me kicked. Killed for input automation while fighting for overtime. Get fucked. Can I stop getting kicked for spamming A and D? I get kicked if I spam AD, but I don't have a snap tap. What the hell do I do? Kicked for input automation. Is this a bug? Very cool, Valve. Got kicked for 3 different reasons in the last 15 minutes. You can get kicked for snaptap in spectator view, kicked for input automation, constantly kicked for new update, kicked for no reason. You've been blocked for no reason. Kicked even without snaptap, kicked for automation. You now get kicked for snaptap on official servers. Perfect. So obviously people are going to be losing their minds because everyone who plays Counter-Strike is a fucking entitled baby. And their game must be perfect all of the time whenever they want to play it. If it isn't, Valve are scum, and we should boycott them and report them to, I don't know, the government or something. Seems idiotic, but that is what the average pathetic weakling CS player feels these days. Anyway, we can now get to the other part where they were cooking. It's not really linked, despite some people are obviously claiming it is, but you can see here, obviously they're talking about the improvements we've just gone over. The jump throw confirmation grunt sound can now be heard by the players nearby. Actually, hang on, I do want to get this. as well. There's now the grunt sound is hilarious. This is Austin CS's video on it, where he went over the the grunting. And give Austin a follow. He's a cool guy. He's been doing some content with Thorin and everything. So, nice, down-to-earth dude.
Speaks for itself. Yep, to walk up a little bit more. Yeah, I heard it there. Yeah. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think I see it on my
Wait, hold on.
mini-map.
No, I don't. You again?
Hold on.
Yeah, I heard you right there.
I see it on my mini-map. It's the little ring, I think.
I don't hear you now.
Hear it there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the little ring when I jump.
Oh, I see it. I see the little ring.
Yeah.
I can just hear you. Yeah, I just hear you groaning.
Yeah, you can like hear it all the way through.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, in Donut. If someone is standing in Donut,
Yeah,
like,
that's what
on
I'm
the
doing.
very back corner.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I can just hear you.
Yeah. Dude.
Wow. Well, that's a big thing though, because you know you can always hear like the utility, but like, oh my god, I just realized you can know the agent's moans, bro. So if I know that you're Ava and you're jump throwing,
take my fucking shit off. All right.
So anyway, yeah, they put in the moans now. You can hear them for miles and miles and miles. Don't think it's going to have any big practical effects on the gameplay. That is an example of a quality of life improvement. Which does bring us to this bit at the end. VACnet. Initial testing of VACnet 3.0 has begun on a limited set of matches. If you believe your match was incorrectly cancelled, email us the match details at csgoteamfeedback@valvesoftware.com. And this brings us to... Oh, but I thought they didn't... It's abandonware. It's CS2. It's abandoned. They don't care about it anymore. It's abandoned. They abandoned the game. They don't care. There's cheaters in every game, and Valve don't care. They don't care. Why would they care? All they care about is cases. All they care about is cases. All they care about is cases. They don't care about VAC. They're not working on VAC. No one's working on VAC. Why would they work on VAC? But as I told you fucking repeatedly, I told you when I announced the fucking launch of this fucking game last year, right? I told you specifically that one of the aspects of it was they had been working on the anti-cheat, right? And they have been making these changes, and now they're ready to see how it works. I've said they've been having these like radical ideas about how to approach anti-cheat without using intrusive kernel software, and so we're going to see. I think the answer is going to be some form of Overwatch automated kick hybrid that is ultimately going to have some AI component to it. Because, look, it is ridiculous. I agree. It is ridiculous that somebody jumping around and spin botting can't be insta-detected and kicked. It seems insane that we don't have the technology to detect inhuman reactions, you might say, inhuman movements. And yet, here we are, where we've had snaptap in there for a week, and you fucking got that, well, we're not doing that, and now look, we can detect snaptap. Well, can you detect spin botting, please? Like, kind of seems that if you can do one, you can definitely do the other. So obviously they've been steady and surely chipping away at the problem. And now it looks like we are going to see some form of improved VACnet technology in a limited capacity before it gets rolled out. I do believe that there is going to be some sort of announcement at some point in the future about they are going to address the anti-cheat. I think they take so much heat for it. Their rule of never talking about it just isn't in line with what modern games developers are doing. And even though Valve are always going to have their own unique spin on things, if, Ubisoft and Riot Games and Activision Blizzard have not just a team dedicated to talking about all the improvements they're making in anti-cheat, they have a dedicated figurehead to come out and explain all the changes they've made. You cooking in the kitchen but not saying anything about it just isn't going to fly in 2024 and beyond. It's as simple as that. You are going to have to get out there and you are going to have to talk to people and say, these are the improvements we're making. I think one of the reasons Valve takes so much heat isn't so much that it's bad or it's ridiculous or it's overwhelming or there are cheaters in every game. I know people who say that are just bullshit artists. There's a very limited amount of people for whom that could even possibly be true, and even those people it isn't true for. But what I will say, if you don't manage people's expectations, they'll fill in the gaps with bullshit, and the internet is just a conduit for that. And our community is just filled with fucking ADHD morons. So what do you think they're going to do? They're just going to make things up, and they do. And this is how you end up with the Vax Sucks community, which is just like the QAnon of esports. And all of these lies and nonsense about Valve's priorities. Now, these patch notes, this is the 19th of August, and they've said, we've got a new version of VAC 3.0, do all the memes. Okay, they did another update shortly after it, proving that they do indeed work on the game. Here it is. This is their update. They've done some style adjustments on the HUD, reduced some of the performance stutter at the end of the round. Okay, people were complaining about that. Audio output can get garbled due to running on efficiency CPU cores. And they released a music kit, right? The Masterminds 2 music kit box is now available for purchase in standard and stat track versions. There you go. There's a music kit in the game. We all have music kits. We all have to customize our experience, put our music kits in. Anyway, they announced it on Twitter. There it is. Hey, everyone. We're excited to release the Masterminds 2 music kit box featuring music from, and list the people. Does a little... I'm not going to play it. It's just going to get me fucking DMCA'd, isn't it? So anyway, there you go. It's good, right? Well, I mean, look, it comes hot on the heels of them doing a really good update, right? Controversial, but a step in the right direction, and announcing that they're doing updates for VAC, so nobody could complain about this. Cue one of the shit, clout-chasing, fucking garbage Twitter accounts that just posts any old bollocks for engagement. I speak for everyone. Mate, you don't speak for everyone. You will never speak for everyone. You don't seem intelligent enough to speak for yourself, frankly. I speak for everyone when I say, this is exactly what we want. Take your time with the operation, boost bug, dying round corners, optimization, keeping vertigo and dust 2 in the map pool, and fixing the anti-cheat. It was 2 days, you fucking absolute loser. It was 2 days since they announced they've just made a big overhaul. Like 3.0, a whole new version of the fucking anti-cheat. And you're whining about it. But, you know, has to reply to it. Has to give his opinion. Another one. These are the accounts that people follow. It's the greatest CS2 update of the year. Who needs an operation or anti-cheat fixes? Yeah, actually, who does need an operation? Dickhead comes back. It's like, well, that last one did numbers. Ha, today we are excited to still wait for an operation. Yeah, wait forever, motherfucker. Who gives a fuck? Guys, it was April Fool's 4 months ago. Yeah, well, we won't put any content in the game, right? Like, it's not like there was a huge, insane update the day before, but no, not a problem. We put a music kit in the game, so it's bad now. We don't want another music kit. Have you thought about this, dickhead? Don't buy it. Just don't buy it, dickhead. Super easy. Don't buy it and just go on about your day. I'm sad this account is a dickhead because he's called Legal Seagull, which is fucking great, but he's a cunt. Put some effort into banning cheaters. 2 days. 2 days after an update to VAC. Not a problem. Reddit wasn't much better. You see, because of all of the kicks for automation that I took you through moments ago, that now means if you put a music kit in the game, you're not going to fix that. That's what the average Reddit pleb thinks, right? No fix for false positive automation. Been less than 2 days. Fix getting kicked for strafing, for the love of God. What's actually going on over at Valve? Remember, big update just the other day ago, right? Constant updates on the game. What's actually going on over at Valve with CS2? The game's been out for almost a year, and we've yet to get any actual new content of substance. I don't even get hype when I see these posts anymore. I'll get home from work 5 hours after the update goes out and see how little comments upvotes the post has, and I just know it's more absolute fucking donkey dookie. Yeah, it's our day, mate. You got a job, you fucking bum. What are you crying about video games for? You're a fucking grown man. Fuck Valve. Releasing this without a fix for the rampant false positive kicks is not a great look. Yeah, they won't fix it, guys. They totally won't fix it. They're not going to fix it. It's going to stay broken forever. Out of season April Fool's joke, which the entire game is. Is this a joke? It's been a year and we have a music kit. Yeah, nothing else, right? Nothing else. Valve should have never released CS2. Do they know that kicking people for strafing will kill the game? Yeah, that's what's going to kill the most popular game on Steam. 100%. It's definitely this thing. It's definitely this thing is going to kill it. 100%. The game is going to die. It's not the cheaters now. It's this. It's 100% this. Because they'll never fix it, obviously. The worst devs in gaming, this is that fucking absolute loser, agreeable broom slayer. Mods, just don't ban him. He's just there posting. He hates the game. Hates the game, hates Valve, hates everyone. Just fucking sits there posting concerned troll bullshit all day. Just in every single thread. Don't ban him though, mods. Whatever you do. It's fine. This guy's just talking about snaptap still for some reason. At this point, just roll back CS for releasing a music kit, guys. At this point, just roll back CSGO and release CS2 as a standalone version in beta for further testing. You are going nowhere. See, guys, they released a music kit, guys. They released a music kit, so we have to roll the whole game back. Got to roll it all back, guys. It's over. So even when Valve, and this is, I love this because it couldn't prove more what I've known the whole time. Even if Valve do update the things that you say you want updated, if they then do something else after that, you will pretend they never updated the fucking thing you asked for in the first place and get back to complaining. Because CS2 players, they don't want to play the game, they want to complain about the game. That is what they do. They have more fun whining about the game than they actually do playing the game. I don't even think half the people who post on that fucking subreddit actually play the game. I think they just like whining about it and seeing how everyone gets riled up and all the engagement that they get from it. It's actually insane. The CS2 community is by far the most insufferable, pathetic, loser esports community right now. And for you to clear Dota, clear League of Legends, that really is fucking something. That really is something. But they just can't help themselves. All of which is to say, look, a great bunch of updates. Valve updating the game. Snaptap's fucking gone. Jump binds are gone. It's going to add a little bit of interesting elements to the next tournaments that we've got on the back straight. Anything that upsets the pros gets a fucking thumbs up from me. And anything that upsets this wretched community gets 2 thumbs up from me. Whatever you do, don't release a fucking music kit.